Please allow me to introduce Mark Taylor, the Vice President of Resource Development at United Way East Ontario. With a background in City Council and a passion for addressing issues like homelessness and poverty, Mark is committed to making a difference in the lives of the region's most vulnerable populations. As an only child raised in Ottawa's West End, he understands the importance of a caring and compassionate community, and he and his family continue to contribute to that community through their volunteer work. Please join me in welcoming Mark Taylor.
Well, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Bonsoir, mesdames et messieurs. Thank you very much for allowing me to join you today. I'm keenly aware of the fact that the speakers are what's between you and the fashion show. So I'm not going to talk for a long time. I do want to say thank you, though, to my good friend Betty Obas for inviting me to join OVFCSCA and all of you today, as well as to the Fab Six who put today together. I also want to point out that I'm here with my old City Council colleague, former Mayor Jim Watson, who's going to share some thoughts with you in a moment. And it's always great to share a stage with Jim. I have to say, it's great to get to go first because he always takes the best material. So it's great to get to talk to you first. I'm not going to take a long time today, but I do want to note that in addition to the wonderful fashion show today, today's Mother's Day. How many of you are mothers? Show of hands. There's a lot of mothers out there. Yes, exactly. Yes. Clap for the mothers. Thank you. You know, I was asked by Betty to talk a little bit about giving back to your community, and I thought, you know, talking to a group of seniors and senior supporters from the Filipino community about giving back to your community is a little bit like, you know, the father speaking to the choir. Because my sense is you probably have all been giving back to your community for a long, long time. I do want to tell you that, you know, in connection to that idea that today's Mother's Day, when I was a kid, picture 1976, I was in grade 1. And it wasn't Mother's Day, it was approaching Father's Day. And my father had passed away when I was just 2 years old, so years before that. And at school, of course, they invited the kids to make a craft. And so I said, well, you know, a craft for their father. And I said, well, could I make something for my mother? And, you know, the teacher, really not thinking much of it, said, no, you got to make something for your mother back in May for Mother's Day, so you can read a book. And, you know, at the time, it kind of bothered me. When I got home, my mother must have read it on my face. And so a couple of days later, I went to school and they said, oh, if you'd like to make a craft for your mother, you can. I didn't think much of it. But years later, I was talking to my mother about it, and she said, yeah, I had called the school and also spoken to the school board and explained to them that our family didn't look like, you know, many of the other families. And I think that's true today and becoming truer every single day in what is becoming an incredibly more diverse and inclusive community in Canada. That more and more, things look different from household to household. But one of the things that, you know, binds us all together is this importance of giving back and supporting each other. Now, that can be donations to charities, it can be volunteering your time like the Fab Six did to put together today, but it can also just be, you know, extending your compassion, extending your understanding to those around you, to include them, to recognize that it takes a lot of different opinions to make up a very strong community. And I think that's what many of you have done. I know in my experiences with Betty over the years, that's what I have experienced every single time she's brought me in touch with the Filipino community. I'll leave you with this thought. Years ago, before Jim and I worked together on City Council, I worked for Jim in his constituency office when he was a member of provincial parliament. And you know, constituency offices for politicians get lots of telephone calls from people about lots of different things. And a lady called one day, senior citizen lady, who had said to me that she didn't think she should have to pay school taxes as part of her municipal tax bill. She said, you know, I don't have any children, I'm a senior citizen now, I don't see why I should have to pay school taxes. And I don't know why this occurred to me, but I said, do you have a doctor? Figuring that most senior citizens have a doctor that they know on a first name basis. And she said, oh yes I do, beautiful young man, helps me with all of my needs, wonderful guy. I said, well that's great. Do you know anything about his life? And of course she did. She said, oh yes, he grew up here in Ottawa and went to the University of Ottawa, Heart Institute, I said, well that's great. It's wonderful that someone helped pay to put him through school so that he could be your doctor today. She took a beat and then said, yeah, I understand. And I think when we talk about giving back to community, there's this unspoken acknowledgement that we're giving back because we took something out, right? Community is like a bank. If we're going to withdraw things, we have to deposit things. But at the end of the day, whether you're depositing, compassion, understanding, a donation, volunteering your time, you're doing that because at some point in your life, whether you know it or not, you benefited from being part of that community. So for everything that you put back into community, into all of the work that OVFCSCA does and our Filipino community here in Ottawa, I want to thank you very much. I want to wish you a wonderful fashion show. And to Betty and the Fab Six, thank you for putting today together. It looks like it's going to be a wonderful event. Merci beaucoup.